Welcome to the virtual Boca 2021, and I am really sorry that we're not able to meet in person. I desperately miss that in-person interaction with all the people during the event, during the dinners and everything. And we're really hoping that the next one in San Diego in August will be able to be in person again. But in the meantime, let's make the most of what we have here. We've got a really fabulous lineup for you, and with the chat box and the stuff on the Facebook community page, all the networking that goes on there, people still seemed, at least back in the San Diego one, back in August, seemed to have a pretty amazing time. So let's do that again. Last time during my opening remarks, I played a video of Admiral McRaven talking about his theme was what starts here changes the world. And I liked it so much. I love that speech. I listen to it frequently. And just the other day, so I adopted that as our theme for the conference. And a few days ago, Pam asked me, "Are you going to use the same theme again?" And I said, absolutely. I love it so much that I think it should be the theme of all our conferences. And unless I come up with a better one, I think this is going to be it going forward. What starts here changes the world. And he goes through sort of 10 lessons that he learned during his military training. And he said, it doesn't matter whether you were in the military or not. The lessons are the same for everybody. He just used experiences that he had in the military. And his very first lesson was about, they were asked or were expected to make their bed during their basic training to perfection. And he said he never really understood the point of that until later in life. And he realized that this whole concept of getting up in the morning and doing something, completing a task properly right in the beginning of the day, just sets the stage for the rest of the day. And you go on to another task and another task and another task throughout the day. And he went on to say that, but if you have, by chance, have a miserable day, then you come home to a bed that's made, a bed that you made. And that'll maybe give you confidence that tomorrow will be better. And what I forgot to sort of talk about last time was the fact that I made the comment that I never make my bed because Pam's normally still in it when I get up. And so I always set myself a task to do at the beginning of each morning when I sit down so that I'd get that task completed. But what I didn't talk about was that a couple of days before the conference back in August, Pam hadn't made the bed, and we were getting ready for bed, and I was actually straightening the bed up and basically making it. And Pam noticed that, and she walked past me and she said, "I was too busy saving the world this morning to make the bed." So I thought that was pretty funny. But he goes on then to talk about one of his other little, he says, if you want to change the world, start off by making your bed. One of his other lessons, he was talking about this tiny little crew of all the small guys that they always used to make fun of their tiny little flippers. But he said that boat crew outswam, outran, outperformed everybody in everything. And his message there was, he said, if you want to change the world, judge a person by the size of their heart, not by the size of their flippers. And his point there is really that we need to respect everyone. And I think that's a really important thing. One of the other things that I think the biggest lesson for me that came in there was he talks about when they do a night swim. They swim right across the San Diego Bay underwater at night over to where all the military ships are parked. And their task is to go down and stick a mine at the bottom of the keel of one of the ships. And they have the engines running and everything. And he says, by the time you get up to the ship, all the street lights are blanked out and whatever, and it's so dark you literally can't see your hand in front of your face. And he said it's at those times when you need to be really calm and you need to draw on all your courage and all your training and just methodically go through it down, get down to the bottom and complete your task. And his point there is that if you want to change the world, you need to be at your very best when times are the toughest. And I think that's an amazing lesson for all of us. Last year, literally the day before we were about to do the event, we had an issue with our website, and the entire live stream page just vanished at lunchtime the day before the event. And I sat there and I thought back to that talk, and I thought, okay, you got to put your head down and do this. And I worked through till late that night, but the next morning when we started the event, nobody was the wiser, and it was a very successful event. And that reminded me, that when things are really tough, that's when you really need to step up. And one of his final messages was not, like with SEAL training, basically they have that bell, and if you want to give up, then you go and you ring the bell and you basically check out and you leave. And he keeps trying to reiterate that it's so important that you don't give up and you keep trying with everything that you do. So he then goes on to talk about this concept of changing the world, and he kind of talks about the ripple effect. And he used the example, he's saying, okay, so there's 8,000 of you, this was a commencement speech at UT, and he said, there's 8,000 of you like graduating today. He said, if all of you go and change the lives of 10 people, and those 10 people go on and do the same, within 5 iterations, that'll be 800,000 people whose lives have been changed. And if you go on another iteration, that's like 8 billion people. I think that's pretty much the whole population of the world. And I kind of followed on with that with a story that I hope I can get up here for you. Pavla, and I am not going to try and pronounce her surname. I need to get her to teach me how to say it sometime, but I don't want to butcher it until I know how to say it properly. She is from the Czech Republic, and she was at our very first event in 2016. Those of you who listened to my opening speech or talk back in August will have heard this, but I think it's really important that that you all get to hear it. So she came in 2016, and back in 2017 in August, she wrote on our Facebook page, and I did it last time, and I want to do it again. My Czech accent sucks, so but I'm going to read it to you as she wrote it, so that hopefully you can hear it in her words. She said, I'd like to share my low-carb story with you. It has been almost 4 years since I heard about low-carb ketogenic way of eating for the first time. I was fascinated and changed my diet right away with incredible results. I have started to study more to understand better. I am from Prague, Czech Republic, and there is only a few information about low-carb in Czech. But I wanted to share my story and my results with other people and motivate them to think more about their diet. That is why I became nutrition specialist in 2016. In summer 2016, I've noticed that there was going to be a low-carb conference in San Diego. Even San Diego is 10,000 miles from Prague. I knew this was a must-see here event for me. The conference was such an inspiration for me that I have started my low-carb food blog in September 2016. In January 2017, I founded the Czech Facebook low-carb group with only a few members. I remember she posted this on August the 31st, 2017, right, which was 8 months after she started this group. And she goes on to say, I'm very proud that I can say we are expecting to reach 10,000 members this Sunday. 1 member for 1 mile from Prague to San Diego last year. Thank you, Pam Devine and Doug Reynolds, for being such an inspiration to me. And Pam checked up with her yesterday, and she now has 176,000 followers. All of those people being inspired by her to change their lives with lifestyle interventions. That was one person that we were able to reach, and look where that went. Other examples that we have, Dr. Brian Lenskes, you're going to hear from him throughout this weekend, basically was inspired at our 2017 event. Contacted me and said, what can we do? What can we do to get this message out? And he basically helped start the San Diego sort of chapter of LowCarbUSA, and went on to get hold of Jason Fung and Trode Kalajian, and they started the Low Carb MD podcast. And now there's literally, I don't know, it's like 5 million downloads or something by this point. The number of people that he's been able to inspire is unfathomable. And so, again, one person that we were able to help influence or inspire, and look what happened. Pam was talking to Gabby Ondrusek just yesterday as well. She was one of the breakout speakers at our event in August. She came to West Palm Beach a couple of years ago, 2018, I think, and was totally inspired there to go and take this message to the Latino population. And she had 1,000 Instagram followers at that time. When we were in Boca Raton last year, she came bouncing into the foyer when she saw us there. It had now been a year since she'd started this, and she was so excited to tell us that she now had 30,000 followers and that she was teaching all these Latino people how to do this. Pam talked to her yesterday, and now she's got 73,000 followers, and she's just going gangbusters. So, there's 3 people that we managed to touch that have gone on to influence many hundreds of thousands of people, maybe eventually millions. And that's just something that makes us really proud, because that is what, that's what we started this for, and that's what we're here for. So the next thing I need to talk about is Adele Height. Back in 2018, Gary Taubes suggested that we have a session and we talk about doctors' experiences in practice if they're actually trying to do this. And he introduced me to Adele and said, maybe we can get her to moderate this session. But in the process of talking with Adele, she just dumped this vision on me that she had that just was overwhelming at the time. But what she wanted to do was, her dream was to have a standard of care established around lifestyle interventions and carbohydrate reduction as a therapeutic intervention. And so we talked about it, and after a while I realized that maybe we could do this. And it all revolved around the legal definition of standard of care, which she was exposed to in a trial that she was on the jury for, like a malpractice lawsuit. And the judge basically explained to them, standard of care is defined as providing health care in accordance with the standards of practice among members of the same healthcare profession with similar training and experience situated in the same or similar communities at the time the healthcare is rendered. In other words, standard of care does not come from what is taught in professional training, from public health policy, or even from clinical care guidelines, although these can inform and help define the standard of care. Rather, standard of care comes from what a community of clinicians do in the actual provision of care. So it's an intangible consensus, effectively, of what everybody agrees. And so what we decided was like, okay, yeah, so clinical guidelines are not standard of care, but if we had a set of clinical guidelines, it would form the foundation around which we could have conversations that would eventually become a consensus. And that would eventually lead to her dream coming true. So we set about it. I basically got a panel of advisors together from like real icons in this space. Professor Tim Noakes, Dr. Gary Fatke, Dr. David Unwin, and numerous others. And basically, Adele wrote this document and then bounced it off this panel of advisors, and basically fed back all their feedback into this document until eventually it was decided that it was ready to publish. And we published it back on our website back in 2019 in May. And it's been amazing how far and wide it's actually gone, and where we hear stories of people that have either taken it to their doctors or other doctors who've taken it to their colleagues to show them that this is actually something that could be done. We had created a professional environment on LowCarbUSA for clinicians to have these conversations, because I knew that was necessary, but it just never really got traction. I couldn't get those conversations going, and it kind of became apparent to us that it wasn't the right place for it. And Dr. Trokalajian, who you're going to hear from through the weekend as well, he started talking on Twitter about how we need a professional organization and everything. And I talked to him and I said, you know what, I already had this because I realized we need it, but it's not really taken off, you know. And we battened it around a bit and eventually came up with the sort of realization that the only way we're going to make this work is to create a proper non-profit organization that specifically has this agenda. And so I started doing that. I learned how to create a non-profit and put a board of directors together and established this non-profit called the Society of Metabolic Health Practitioners. And I can't believe I didn't even make a slide for this in my slide deck here. But the SMHP, and what I'm actually going to do, and I think that's why I didn't make a slide. Okay, if I can get rid of this. I'm going to break all my rules about doing a presentation, right? Because my rule is never ever do something with a live website or something on a presentation, because something will always go wrong. So hopefully something won't go wrong, but there's just so much I wanted to show you that I felt like this was the best way to do it. So this is the new website, Society of Metabolic Health Practitioners. And one of our committee members came up with this slogan, which I think is brilliant. One voice for metabolic health. And so that's what we're looking at. And so I just want to, so basically Adele has been instrumental behind this whole thing, and she's involved with all the committees and everything. And her talk is next after this. And what she's going to do is explain to you what the SMHP is and why it's so important for this community, and why it's so important for all of you to be a part of it and take part in it. What I just want to do is maybe just show you, as being the engineer, I'm just going to show you the site itself and what's involved. So if you look under About Us, there's a mission statement there. Our board of directors is here. You'll hear from Mark Kukuzela later in the weekend. Miriam's been at a lot of our conferences. You'll hear from Doc Sivers. You'll hear from Tro. Eric Westman spoke back in our one in August. He wasn't able to be at this one. But if you go to the committees, so this is the few committees that we've got to start with. The steering committee basically oversees all the other committees, and Cecile Seth has been a godsend, herding all the cats and making sense of all this craziness. Adele is the head of the clinicians committee, which is the one that oversees the clinical guidelines. So what I didn't mention is, like, these things, the clinical guidelines, the provider lists that we had created for people to find practitioners and doctors who are open to this conversation. All the scientific papers and everything that we put together, all of those things have migrated over from LowCarbUSA to the SMHP now, so that they have a real home. And we literally launched this a couple of weeks ago, and if I see the response to it and how many people are joining and signing up and showing interest in it, it's exactly what we had hoped. What I didn't have on LowCarbUSA was that buy-in. I don't know whether they just see it as legit now or whatever, but suddenly there's this organization that people can be a part of and shelter under sometimes, and so that's the excitement of this whole thing for us. There's a bunch of forums, if you remember. Then these forums this is where the conversations are going to go on, and I think we might. The forums are not great, just by the way. They're not Facebook, but we're working on it, and we're going to continue to make it better and better, just as Facebook did. In the beginning, they weren't that great either. But this is where the conversations are going to go on that will eventually form that consensus that will then become standard of care over time. And we're really excited about that. There's a bunch of free training under here. I'll come back to the accreditation. The provider list, this is a provider list that we, and this is why you don't do things. Okay, while it's coming up, the provider list moved over from LowCarbUSA, and at the time, all you could do was search for in the US, you could search by zip code. You couldn't even search for a doctor's name. You just could search by zip code. And if you were in a different country, you could search by city. And now this list here now, you can search on doctor's name, you can search by city, state, province, postal code or zip code, speciality. There's a bunch of different specialities that you can search on. There's a bunch of different categories, whether you're a clinician, nurse practitioner, nutritionist, health coach. And we don't exclude anybody. If you're involved in teaching people about this intervention, this lifestyle, then this is a home for you, no matter who you are. And you can obviously select different countries as well. So then just to go, I talked about accreditation. So what we did was we defined a bunch of pathways where practitioners could achieve all of these requirements and then apply to be accredited. And we obviously do all the due diligence and check that out. And once that's done, the person can get accredited. So what they would do is, and we can look down at Adele here. So we have founding members, and so members and founding members are going to have a badge down here. At the moment, we still only have founding members until the end of January. So anybody here who would like to join with a huge discount for the first year's fees, you have until the end of this month to join. After that, the regular members badge is going to be different. But down here, you'll see with Adele is that she's been accredited. And so this is the badge that will display. And in the search here, there's actually a box so you can check and look for only the accredited people. And you'll notice also that being accredited allows you to use the credentials MHP for metabolic health practitioner. We have defined continuing CMHEs, right? It's continuing metabolic health education credits, okay? And events like this, and the San Diego one, and Low Carb Down Under, and the Low Carb Denver, and a bunch of other places are recognized as providing their CMEs would convert to CMHEs for this organization. And once you're accredited, there is an ongoing CMHE annual requirement, so that we make sure that this conversation is just moving ahead so fast that we just feel it's imperative that people keep up and continue that education. So so that's basically it. There's a button up the top here to join the SMHP. You can join as a provider. Maybe click on this. Yeah, so now there's a bunch of reasons why you should become a member, but you can join as a provider as well, which is totally free. And that will get you listed in that list of providers. And you can go in there now. You can edit your own profile and go crazy with that, and and people can find you. And but as you've I think become more and more aware of how important this is, then you may decide you wanted to become a member, and be able to get accredited and participate in the conversations, and be a part of this community and be a part of the solution, not part of the problem, I keep saying. So that is all I have to say. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you really, really enjoy this.